kept shooting. It's two of us. My friend is Brent Renault, and he's been shot and left behind.
You don't know what happened to
He
you?
was. I saw him being shot in the neck.
This episode, we're going to talk about the reporters. A lot of people have a love-hate relationship with the news and media. But a lot of the things that we have to understand is that reporters are human beings too. They have a job to do. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how they're helping get the word out about the Ukrainian war, but also what are they facing in the field. In the last 24 hours, there's been three remarkable things. One, the war is continuing. Two, the news continues to report. And three reporters, three news media people have been killed. One was an award-winning author and columnist and reporter who was killed outside of Ypres. And the other two were Fox News associates who were reporting for Fox News in the Ukraine. So three foreign media happened to be killed, and this is what gets the attention. And yet, during this entire war, there's been numerous people citizen journalists, people who go on YouTube and such, who have been reporting and broadcasting what's going on, and many of them have unfortunately also been targeted and sadly paid with their lives. The thing is that a reporter goes out into a war zone or into situations where they could potentially be at risk, especially if you're a foreign reporter who doesn't speak the local language and generally doesn't have a lot of support from your news agency and effectively are being sent out, go get the story, go where the action is. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the time that action results in being fired at. A lot of the stories that you see are, quote, and I'm using air quotes here, safe when they're going out and going to the border and interviewing people leaving Ukraine. And then there are those journalists who are in Ukraine. You'll see them, they're wearing press badges, they're showing press on the cars that they drive in, they're wearing flak jackets, and for all intents and purposes, their form of weapon that they're holding is a microphone or a camera. And all too often, it seems in the last while, reporters are now becoming legitimate targets for violence. And the Russians, generally speaking, and I don't really know, and it's not really known where these reporters were going into. Were they targeted because they were media, or were they just in a bad spot at a bad time, and they were just unfortunately victims of crossfire, as so many people who are trying to flee from war zones or in the war zone that is Ypres or in and around Kiev have become. Generally speaking, how do reporters in war zones, and especially in Ukraine, how do they try to mitigate the risk to themselves? Well, a lot of the time you can see them, they're wearing body protection, so they're wearing a flak jacket and a war helmet, a battle helmet. They make the judgment call. If they're going to go into an area, they try their best to do the research beforehand to get the best situational awareness that is going on, and they try to judge a situation as to how close they want to get into situations. But the problem is, because the war zone is constantly fluctuating, they don't know if an area that they're going into that was reported safe just recently is really safe. There could be checkpoints that are set up by Russians who see a oncoming car and take it as an enemy action. A lot of the time, the reporters, they count on their local staff, they count on any contacts that they have in the local areas, and generally they try to draw upon what they know of the local area before they make decisions on where they go to report. A lot of the time, if they can, they try to report from a distance, and they try to get distance shots. But again, just like the one reporter who was shot through the throat, they don't really know whether or not the area that they're going to is safe. Those reporters that were unfortunately killed, they made a choice, and they know that they were going into a war zone. They were all flak jacked up, they were all ready to go, and well, they paid the ultimate price. So again, to sum this up, how do reporters keep themselves safe? Generally, they wear battlefield appropriate PPE, personal protective equipment, flak jacket, helmet. They often rely on local staff. They work with people who are what you would call a fixer. There are people who know the area, have contacts already, and generally have a much better assessment by the virtue of the fact that they speak the language, they know the people in the area, and generally have good contacts with either the government or with fighters on the ground, and can get reporters in and out as safe as you can be in a war zone. Unfortunately, 3 lives have been lost, and who knows how many other reporters in the Ukraine have been killed in the 21 days now going on that this war has been happening. 3 weeks and counting. And who knows how many more are going to pay the price for doing the job of bringing the news to us and really giving us a full detail about what's going on. In the next episode, episode 6, we're going to be talking about what are the refugees who are not white, blue-eyed, and blonde-haired, those who are not Ukrainian. These are talking about the Nigerians, the Indians, the Chinese, the people who are not European by ethnicity, but happen to be actual citizens or residents of Ukraine and have now found themselves being, by this war, pushed out. So join me in the next episode.